Today's video will be detailing which starter Pokemon is better, Charmander or Squirtle. Hello and welcome back to Pokemon Theory, the show where Professor Oak really isn't a professor and going to the gym doesn't mean pumping iron. Unless you're in Dewford Town, which is a literal gym. Let me set the stage. The Game Theorist not only has a show about games and theories, shocker, I know, but also a show known as Deadlock, where arguments can be had about timeless things within the gaming culture. For example, which starter Pokemon is better, Charmander or Squirtle? However, even though they go into detail and depth, at the end of it, most of the time they just ask the audience which one they want or think would be best. But the Game Theorist has this all wrong for one reason, because Generation 1 is filled with glitches. Oh yes, glitches like missing no, like encountering a Pokemon without a Pokemon, soft locking the game, capturing a level 100 Pokemon before even battling Brock, the first gym leader, and capturing Mew through a trainer glitch. But with all these glitches, how does this even affect the starters? Well, through glitching, I turned Gary into a Pokemon and battled him, so that's one way. Just one though. But no, there is actually programming errors that also combine with these glitches to help this theory and produce my proof of which starter is truly the best to get, at least in Generation 1, because we're not talking about the other generations here. Some examples of programming errors are Focus Energy doing the exact opposite of increasing the likelihood of a critical hit, which is really bad, and Rage always missing if the user's accuracy is decreased even once. Few people know Gen 1 as well as me. Charmander and Squirtle are great Pokemon, and in fact, you should be able to get all the starters with a GameShark code. Cheating is never good, but fun. And if you think about it this way, within the first 10 minutes of the game, you could essentially just trade for all three starters anyways, so really all you're doing by getting all three starters at the start is just saving yourself some time. So cheating to get all three of them in one game wouldn't really be that bad at the end of the day, and you can get them all in Pokemon Yellow without exploits or even trading, so there's that. However, which is the best because of Gen 1 mechanics? Charmander is a very difficult starter to begin with, and its attacks are useful being a fire type, but there are many other fire types that are great in Gen 1. Arcanine, Ninetales, Magmar, Moltres even. And Squirtle is an amazing water type. But before the second gym, if you grinded enough, you could get a Gyarados, one of the most overpowered Pokemon in Generation 1. And hey, let's throw Pikachu in there. But actually, you can just capture Pikachu in Viridian Forest, so that's kind of a waste. But, you know, I guess it saves you time. But what about Bulbasaur? Well, comment section, by now you must have figured it out. The glitches, the mechanics, the programming errors with moves. Oh yes, Bulbasaur is truly the strongest starter. Why? That's a good question. Its stats are not more impressive than Squirtle or Charmander's, honestly, but because of Bulbasaur's moves. It's no secret. You have a Pokemon with an amazing moveset, you can pretty much sweep any Pokemon in the game. Generation 3's Meryl with Rollout and Defense Curl allows players to sweep every gym and even the Elite Four. I did it personally, but again, that's just Generation 3, and that's just an example. Now, we are not talking about competitive online, as this, once again, is just Gen 1, so you're pretty much limited to a link cable. But which moves and why? How could a Poison Grass type be the best starter when you can get an Oddish or a Bellsprout before Misty's gym? Well, because of two moves and how they work together. Leech Seed, a fairly rare move that is not commonly learned. In fact, in Gen 1, Execute and Executor are the only two other Pokemon that learn that move naturally, making it a very rare move indeed. But it isn't just Leech Seed, it's also one other move, Toxic. One of, if not the, most used status move in competitive battles, Toxic TM06. If you're unfamiliar with both, I'll explain. Leech Seed is a move that does not inflict a status, but works similarly to Attract or Confusion, where the Pokemon suffers each turn by losing a percentage of their health points, and the user of Leech Seed is healed a portion of that health, but it doesn't affect the status. It sounds a little complicated, but basically it works like Absorb, Mega Drain, or Giga Drain, where it just hurts the opposing Pokemon and heals its user at the end of each turn. As for Toxic, it's a bit more complex, but I will keep it simple. Being poisoned is one thing, where the inflicted Pokemon suffers some of its hit points being removed at the end of its turn due to the poison. However, Toxic is worse, and it inflicts a deeper poisoning, a condition known as badly poisoned, which ends up increasing each turn instead of of being a consistent percent. Toxic increases each turn and becomes worse as the battle continues. This eliminates the Pokemon's ability to stall, and most Pokemon cannot last past 3 to 4 turns dealing with badly poisoned statuses while fighting at the same time. But it's because of Generation 1's programming that Bulbasaur is the best, because when Toxic and Leech Seed combines, Leech Seed becomes Toxic. There is a very complicated formula for this, but let me simplify this. First turn, Leech Seed is used. Second turn, Toxic. Now every turn after, both Toxic and Leech Seed increase in power due to the programming error. This means instead of gaining something like 10% of the enemy's HP, it grows to 20% and then 40% as an example. If you are a very strategic player and patient, it would be nearly impossible to stop a Venusaur. But there is one more thing that makes Bulbasaur an even better starter than just that. Bulbasaur learns a move called Growth also. Another broken move in Gen 1 because Gen 1 does not have special defense as a separate stat. So when Growth is used to increase special, both special defense and special attack are increased. Imagine how you could set up with a Venusaur. Toxic and Leech Seed first, then Growth 5 times and sit back and watch the dread of your opponent. Oh yes, poison types in Gen 1, they aren't so bad. But Bulbasaur is what you would call the worst, or the best depending on how you view things. If you are on the receiving end, he'd be the worst. But if you're the one controlling the moves, then he'd probably be your best Pokemon on your team. Stats are important, but movesets are too. And thanks to Generation 1's programming, it's hard to argue that Venusaur isn't the best fully evolved starter. Charizard learns what? Fire Blast? Slash? It can be taught things like Dragon Rage, and that's cool and all. And Blastoise can learn Hydro Pump, Blizzard, Skull Bash. While Venusaur's movesets are so deadly, Toxic, Leech Seed, Growth, and Solar Beam, Razor Leaf, Body Slam, Hyper Beam even. Whatever you taught Venusaur, it wouldn't matter because you already picked the winner. So welcome to the Hall of Fame. I know I'll see you there with Venusaur next to you. But, like the Game Theorist's deadlock, I would like you to tell me which starter you think is the best and why. Are stats more important? Are movesets? Comment your thoughts below, and if you enjoyed my video, leave a like.